Cycles within cycles, the spiral of conscious regeneration. Welcome. In the grand symphony of existence, from the smallest cell to the largest galaxy, there is one unshakable truth that I see. Nothing is static. Everything is in a state of perpetual motion, of rhythmic dance. The ancient Hermetic Principle of Rhythm declares everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. We see this in the beating of a heart, the cycle of seasons, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the very orbit of planets. Yet, there's a profound distinction to be made in how we might perceive this rhythm. It feels like the difference between being trapped in a repetitive closed circle and ascending in a conscious unfolding spiral. Consider the human body, this magnificent, self-renewing vessel. It looks like a universe in miniature, a microcosm that mirrors the macrocosm of the cosmos itself. Many of us have heard the adage that the body replaces itself every 7 years. While this is a poetic simplification, different cells have different lifespans. It points to an immutable biological truth that I find fascinating. Our skin regenerates every few weeks. Our liver replaces itself in under a year. Our very skeleton is slowly but constantly being remodeled. On a cellular level, death and rebirth are not distant events. They appear to be the daily, sacred work of sustaining life. Old cells die, their components are recycled, and new, vibrant cells take their place. This doesn't seem like an error or a tragedy. It looks like the essential rhythmic process of the physical form. Now, we can apply this through the lens of the Hermetic Principle of Correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. If this cycle of death and regeneration is the fundamental law of our physical body, then what aspects of our non-physical being, our psychological and spiritual avatar, might also be governed by this same rhythm? Our beliefs, our emotional patterns, our habits, our very sense of identity, are they still being informed by cells that have long since passed away? Are we carrying mental and emotional structures that were formed seasons ago, lifetimes ago, and have yet to be consciously released and regenerated? This feels like where we encounter the two paths of cyclical experience. The first path appears as a closed circle. This is the experience of unconscious repetition. It can feel like being on a wheel or spinning in place. The seasons change outside the window, years pass on the calendar, but inside, we might find ourselves confronting the same fears, the same reactive patterns, the same limiting stories. We may change jobs, change relationships, change locations, but a familiar emotional weather always seems to follow. This looks like rhythm without assent. It feels like the ego, the old cellular consciousness, mistaking its habitual loop for the totality of existence. In this state, life can feel like a series of problems to be solved again and again, a hamster wheel of effort leading back to the same starting point of dissatisfaction. The second path reveals itself as the ascending spiral. This feels like the experience of conscious evolution. From a distant vantage point, the spiral may appear to circle back, touching upon similar themes or challenges. But with each revolution, there seems to be a measurable ascent, a gain in perspective, wisdom, and integration. We don't face the same challenge. We face a higher octave of it. The fear we transmute today is not the fear of a child, but the more nuanced fear of an adult. The love we cultivate feels not like a dependent need, but a conscious choice. The spiral honors the rhythm. the in-breath and out-breath, the contraction and expansion. But it adds the dimension of conscious direction. It feels like the application of the principle of vibration, understanding that by elevating the rate and quality of our own mental and spiritual vibration, we can rise to a new plane of experience. From this viewpoint, our lives don't look like a circle looking back on itself. They look like a spiral ascending through the planes of being. The winter we experience in our soul is not the end. It appears as the necessary period of composting, where the old forms break down to nourish the seed of what is to come. The spring that follows is a new beginning, but from a higher starting point of understanding. So, a vital, practical question seems to emerge from this understanding. What aspects of our avatar feel ready for conscious regeneration? We can look to the closed circles in our lives. Where do we feel stuck, repeating the same argument, the same self-doubt, the same pattern of attracting the same lesson? That feeling of stagnation can be the signal. It feels like the old cellular structure, having saved its purpose, now asking to be released. It could be a story we tell about our own capabilities, a grudge we have nourished for years, a defensive posture that no longer protects us but only isolates us. The process of conscious regeneration, from my perspective, follows the same pattern as the body's own wisdom. First, there needs to be an honest recognition and release, the cellular death. This doesn't have to be a violent act, but a letting go. It is the willingness to acknowledge this belief, this emotional habit, no longer serves the health of my whole being. I release it. Then, in the space created by that release, we can plant the seed of the new. We can consciously choose the new thought, practice the new response, embody the new belief. We nourish it with our attention and our actions. And finally, we allow the natural rhythm of growth to take over, integrating this new aspect into the wholeness of who we are. This, to me, feels like the true alchemy. It isn't about denying the natural cycles of life, which include endings and decay. It's about participating in them consciously, as the gardener of our own soul. We cooperate with the rhythm, but we can direct the ascent. We can understand that the death of an old way of being is not a failure, but the essential prerequisite for a more vibrant, authentic life to be born. I engage in this work. I begin to see the entire world through this lens. The conflict and renewal in society, the cycles of history, the environmental seasons of Earth, all appear as parts of this grand spiraling dance. It moves me from feeling like a passive victim of cycles to feeling like a conscious participant in a sacred, evolving process. Our bodies know how to do this. They have been practicing for our entire lifetime, shedding the old and creating the new. Our task, as I see it, is to extend that innate biological intelligence into the realms of our mind and spirit. We need not fear the end of a cycle. We need not cling to forms that have grown brittle. We can learn to trust the spiral. We can cooperate with its upward pull. For in the conscious release of what we have outgrown, we make room for the universe to regenerate through us in a form that feels ever more whole, ever more free, and ever more aligned with the ascending harmony of all things.